What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Crazy One here to let you know about this little box, which could be the key to unlimited sustainable energy for your camera for a good chunk of hours at least. All right, guys, what's going on, y'all? This year, I am starting to do some product reviews, and I figured I would get into it because a lot of people have asked me, what do I use? So for those of you who do not know, I do a lot of work with boxing and MMA, sports videography, and those types of things that get aired on TV. And the one thing that always happens is I am constantly running and gunning. See what I did there? Anyway, so there is this one thing that I have always had a problem with, and that is power for my camera. For those of you who don't know, I use a GH5, and with the GH5, a lot of people tout about the battery life on a GH5. That's if you don't have a whole lot of stuff to it. Here's a disclaimer, I'm not actually filming this with my GH5, I'm filming this with my G7, but I need to show you the GH5 and the setup with this device right here, which is the Juicebox DSLR Battery. There's no brand, there's no number or branding or anything like that that comes with it that's named to it. It's just called the Juicebox. Now, I have to make sure that you know that this is the DSLR version of the Juicebox and not the full version of a Juicebox, which is right here, because this bad boy I bought for my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, and this bad boy can run that camera for at least a good 12 hours or so. But what happened was I tried to connect this Juicebox with a dummy battery to my GH5, and it did not work. So I did some digging and I found this Juicebox to go ahead and run for DSLR batteries. Now, the reason why it doesn't work, it has a lot to do with wattage, power, and voltage that is sent to the camera, which if you have a camera that works with AC power, this Juicebox will work just fine if you have a camera that works with AC power. However, if you don't have a camera that works with AC power, you need to use this. So, how does this work? Well, it's quite simple. I'm gonna show you what I use on my GH5, and here is my handy dandy GH5 right here. And what I didn't know, and I looked all over YouTube, I did some searching, and I could not find anything to do with this. I went into one of the Facebook groups that I belong to ask them how do they power their GH5s externally. Aside from the trolling comments, it's the internet, I got a lot of helpful tips on how to do it. And now everybody said they're using V-mount batteries and they're using gold-mount batteries and hooking it up to a dummy battery. Now, me being one of those camera purist type of guys, dummy batteries was the furthest thing from my mind when it comes down to externally powering this thing. Because I just figured that, hey, there's no power jack to it, so it just must be meant to run on batteries. Now, granted, the GH5 batteries do last a pretty long time, okay? These bad boys last a good 4 to 5 hours, maybe more, if you're not doing stuff like E-stabilization or IS lock or any of the advanced features that this camera uses to be as smooth as it is. Also, I got a monitor hooked up to it, which is going out of the HDMI port, which drains the battery even faster. So I find myself at like an MMA event, I have to change the battery like every 1, maybe 2 hours on this thing, which is still way better than a Blackmagic. All right, 20-minute battery power is just, whoo, not for me. However, I find myself being able to use at least 2 of these during an event, but what I have to do is I have to stop at halfway and then charge this one while I'm using the other one, just to make sure that if I need it for a long stretch, that I can have it for a long stretch and at least one of my batteries is full at all time. I mean, hey, I'm a budget filmmaker and I don't have a lot of money to spend on batteries. I know it's a commodity, but listen, if you don't got it, you don't got it. Got other stuff to pay for. So for the price of this one battery, and if I don't normally do third-party batteries. So at the price of one battery, which is about 60 bucks to get the Panasonic version of this battery, I went ahead and I got this dummy battery from Juicebox. And by the way, Juicebox is not sponsoring this video. However, Juicebox, if you would like to send me some stuff, get at me. This dummy battery, which has a DC coupler, and I can put it into this camera, and then I can hook up this battery. So what I want to do, because I've never seen this done online, I've looked a lot of places, a lot of people show their battery rigs and their DIY power source. No time have I ever seen someone actually shoot a video saying this is how you put in a dummy battery for a GH5. So here you go. I'm gonna take out the actual battery from my GH5 here, insert the battery for the dummy battery here. And what happens is when you put in this battery, there's a wire out. So I asked the question, how do I put this thing in with the wire in, and when I close the bay doors, it's not gonna let the bay doors close? Well, the answer is quite simple. If you look right into the front of the camera, on the front right-hand side of the camera, there is a rubber kind of doorway that you can use to pluck out. And when you pluck this bad boy out, you can snake the wire through here. Now I do have a small rig cage, so you gotta keep that and you gotta keep that in mind, because they absolutely kept that in mind when it came down to the design of this cage, because it totally allows you to do a couple of things with this battery setup. So one, just as easy, I snaked it through with the little door that's right there. And I snaked it through, and here's the DC coupler for the battery. Now, the thing that I love about this battery is that it can also serve as a grip for your camera. Now, a lot of people are asking me about heat dispensation. What I did was I left this thing on all day yesterday because I wanted to find out how long. So it was about a good 7 or 8 hours with the monitor. The battery for the monitor, it went out before this did. So that's a good thing if you are into that, if you have monitors. If not, you'll probably get a little bit more battery life, but this lasted about 8 hours of camera just with this connected to this and the IS lock on. I think I had it on. It comes with a hold shoe mount, and you actually stick that onto your cage if you have a cage. Now I do recommend the small rig, again, not sponsored, small rig cage for the GH5. This bad boy is so good. It allows you to accessorize and rig up your GH5 in so many different ways. I can throw tripods on the bottom. I have a grip right here, which the microphone system that I'm using right now to record this, I normally would have on this bad boy right here. But you could take this, I mounted it upside down for functionality reasons, and unlatch the lock, boom. Now you have a good lock. Now there's a lot of wire that's considerable, so what I do is just give it a couple of wraps, and boom. Now I have a full functioning, powered on, let's get the monitor on so you guys can see. I have a fully functional, powered on GH5 that works. See that? And if I leave this bad boy on, it will stay on for hours and hours and hours, which means that the only thing that I would have to change in the midst of an event is a card. And being that the GH5 has dual SD slots, as long as I have the right size cards in and I'm recording at the right codec, because that all-eye 400 megabit 4K, you only get like 20 minutes on a 64 gig card. But if I'm doing regular 150 megabits recording on the GH5 at 4K, I can get a good 4 hours at a time without not even having to change a battery, a card, anything like that. And for most events that I would do, that's just about perfect. So if I'm shooting an MMA event or a boxing event, all right, with this battery and enough cards, I probably have to change cards maybe only once. If I'm doing a wedding, you're talking about having a couple of backup batteries just in case this thing does go, if I'm doing an all-day shoot from morning to night, because this thing will last a good 8 hours. And on top of that, just to be sensible, you're not going to have your camera for 8 hours straight through. All right, so if you're doing a wedding, this one thing would mean you would not have to change the battery all day long, no matter what accessories you put on it, whether you're putting on mics, whether you're putting on a monitor, whether you have the extra stabilization features of the GH5 on this, you would not have to at all change this battery if you're using common sense. So if you're, filming some things and you gotta travel to the next location, you're not gonna leave this on. You could, but you're not gonna leave this on, especially if you're having a monitor, because you don't want to waste the monitor batteries. You still have to account for those. It doesn't power those up. However, there is another USB for charging or for powering another source. I did try to hook this up to my phone. It did not work. So in that case, I would have to, go with something like this if I needed to externally power my phone or anything else with DC power or AC power. So that's pretty much it. It's a grip. It's nice and steady. Okay, it's clean if you know how to wrap it properly. It does not get in the way of changing your cards, which is one of the things I was worried about when I was trying to do this setup. I can get both of my cards out of here just fine with this battery grip, and if the battery grip got into the way, I just have to take the latch off, unlatch it to do my batteries. And that's pretty much it. Other than that, this bad boy is solid. It is a definite recommend. And if you are a GH5 shooter with a small rig cage like this, or a cage similar, doesn't have to be small rig, whatever it is that you have to, I highly recommend you picking up one of these bad boys. It doesn't get too hot on your hands. It doesn't overheat as far as I can tell. I haven't put it through an extensive amount of use yet. However, one thing that I know is that I will not have to be changing batteries for a long time when I'm using this. And on top of that, if you are using this and using it as a grip, with a GH5, we all know about the dreaded autofocus. Even with its firmware enhancements and fixes and stuff like that, the autofocus is still sketchy. So most of the time, you'll be holding like this and probably checking your focus, so you probably won't have your hand on that in enough, in enough amount of time to actually make it overheat. But other than that, this is great. You can use it as a grip. All right, it's powered. It allows you to reach your batteries if you mount it the right way. This thing is all around great. So guys, let me know, how are you powering your cameras on if you're doing it externally? If you're on a BMPCC 4K or 6K, or even a Lumix, or even Canon, if they have, I don't know about Canon having support like that for external, but however they're doing it, how are you rigging up your cameras for external power supply? And if you have one of these, how have these been working for you? Is there anything that I missed? Let me know in the comments below. It's your boy Crazy One, signing off with another product review, and I will see you guys in 2020 with a whole bunch more other stuff. I got so much gear to show you guys, and listen, for all you budget filmmakers out there, keep dreaming big. See you guys next time.